But we got down there, and they said, what do you expect out of this trip? And I was resisted a lot on going to this trip. Not resistant, but I was resisted. There was a lot of things that came up, and I wasn't sure I was going to go at some point. And then you get the weather report, and it's going to be this, and it's going to be that. But God has a plan for us. You know, God has a plan for us to do things. And so I didn't put a limitation on what I wanted from God on this trip, because I realized that if you pray for this, God may be wanting to do this. There may be a whole other section that you're leaving off by just praying for one simple thing. The God sightings, there were so many of them that I won't talk about all of them, because, like I said, they're going to have to start a timer. But there was a situation that was near tragedy at home. And it was near suicide. And we prayed, and everyone there was a picture of everybody with their hands up in a little building. It was right before this one. We were actually at this place, that's Bo's house. And you could feel God reach down into that place. And so God took me to the night before where I prayed in the Spirit, and I always heard that if you pray in the Spirit, the Spirit will pray for things that you don't know how to ask. And I thought that was, you know what the need is, but you don't know how to ask God for it. You don't know what to say. And God's like, well, that's part of it. He laid it in my heart. I didn't hear an audible voice, but he took me back to the night before at church where I was praying in tongues, and he said, that's when you were praying for this need. And so sometimes when you pray through the Spirit and let the Spirit work through you, he's working in situations that you don't even know exist yet on your behalf. That's how the love of God works. So I prayed to see God in this trip, and I succeeded. I also knew it was going to be hot, and he didn't let me down there either. So ensuring the God sighting that night at church, the one that was supposed to sit in this chair, Tara, her God sighting was, she said, I came here and I wasn't sure that I would fit in. She said, I'm coming from outside. You guys have all been together. She said, there's one person here I've drawn close to, and it's Harold. And she said, it's nothing weird. I'm a married woman. He's a married man. But spiritually, I feel like I've drawn closer to him. And today I found out why after I watched him pray with his wife, because I told Kim, if you need me home, I'm on the next bus to the airport. And she said, I saw that, and I saw the way he treats his daughter, and I realized that God let me see my dad. And my dad's gone. I can't see him anymore, but God let me see him today. And so I thank you for that. And of course, I was shaking, crying, and I gave her a big hug, and it changed the trip for everybody. It's another one would be Bo and Pastor Elvis. I saw Bo work his heart out every day with a smile on his face. He was so patient because all we did was slow him down. We would see this guy after he would get there at 6 o'clock in the morning and work and do like 3 times the work we would do all day. What was it, half of that one big room and 10 bags of cement with all the sand that goes with it. He did that morning. And then we show up and we did 15 bags, but that's with a team, but you watch these guys and how people interact with them. They met them with esteem, they met them with respect, and they met them with love. So that's how they live their life. And so my God sighting is regardless of what I do and my abilities, if I have love, then that's going to transfer over here when I get back. And so my God sighting here was whenever I saw my wife walk around the vehicle. I hadn't seen her all week, and my heart just melted, So God sightings are here. You have to look for them. he's willing to do the same thing here. We heard a church service. We couldn't go in and have our church service inside the building because they had a different people that had rented it, and it was a convention for churches, and we heard him praising, you know. And so God's working here, he's working there. I didn't need to go to Puerto Rico to let God work in my heart. He didn't change. He was still God before I left. And there's a quote from Face ID. Sorry, guys. W. Summers Amalgam, a God that can be understood is no God, who can explain the infinite in words. And I don't have words to explain who God is or what he's done to me this week. Like, I can't put one word on this trip. Awesome is just too generic. Life-changing is just too generic. There's so many things that fit now. But he's still the same God before I left, so I should be able to see that in my daily life here. And that's what my takeaway is to have those sightings that I had there, to be able to look for him here. With me and my family, we can do the same things that those people did down there. I don't need to go to a different country to get that. And I want God to do that in me here.
So I was one of the ones that waited to the last minute to say, okay, I want to go. And I want to thank you guys for supporting me and helping me raise my money so I could go. The reason why I waited for the last minute is I also have rheumatoid arthritis, and if I do anything out of the ordinary, I hurt for days. I can't hardly move. But with God, we carried those blocks. My arms were not even sore. I could walk. I think I worked just about as hard as everybody else here. And I wouldn't have been able to do that without God. And my takeaway is, it was very hot. We looked out for each other. We made sure we had water, making sure that everybody was drinking, that they took a break when they needed to. And the whole time I was there, I felt like God was saying, you need to do this at home. We have people that will miss the service. And before you know it, they haven't been here for like a couple of months. And we're like, where's so-and-so? We cannot wait on the pastoral staff to make those phone calls. It is up to us to look out for one another, come alongside each other, pray for each other, make sure that everyone is doing okay. Because if not, somebody's going to pass out from heat stroke. Same thing spiritually. We have to look out for one another, and that was my takeaway from the trip.
I didn't follow Melanie's instructions because I already had a story. No one's really talked about Pastor Elvis yet, so I will. He was the one, he kind of organizes what we do. Like the people, he organized food for us every day. Not every day. We ate peanut butter and jelly one day, but every other day for lunch, there were church people that fed us, or he fed us, which was wonderful because the food was amazing. But if you know me, I'm structured, and I have a timeline, and I have a checklist, and I don't like to not be in that. And Pastor Elvis is the exact opposite. He's not organized. He just wants to talk to people and love on people. And there was one example. He offered a ride to the bus, and I was thinking, yes, it is so hot. I get an air-conditioned ride to the bus. Well, he had the windows down because he stops in the middle of the road to talk to these children that are in a house, and then the mom, and then he moves me out of the way to get coffee that he had in the floorboard, not like a cup of coffee, like a package of coffee, to give them. And I have no idea what he's saying, but I'm thinking, buddy, it's hot. Can you keep driving? I am hot. So he finally moves on. We, like I said, don't know what he said, but they were smiling, so I guess good things. And when he moved, he said Mission Discovery built that house. So even in this neighborhood that his church isn't in, it was like what we're doing down the road, actually. We're building houses for people, but he has a relationship with them. And I felt like my God sighting was, God's like, you need to push your agenda aside and your timeline aside and love on the people around you.
Well, this is my first time going, first time flying. Never flew. It was wonderful. I didn't expect what they were saying. You had to do things, but it was okay. Then when I got there, it was hot. I don't do heat. I got too hot. But I felt I did what I could do. I lifted some blocks. I don't lift blocks, but I did. I lifted some plywood, did the paint, packing toys, worked for Pastor Ellis, was wonderful. He was just a godsend. And every time he came, he was always bringing us something. And the slushies was great. Nobody said anything about the slushies. But we had them before lunch, but it cooled us down. And then he didn't want us to eat our peanut butter. We brought peanut butter. We only had one lunch. So we had to wait on lunch that day and that next day. But it was good. All the food was good. I just don't want no more rice. I'm riced out for a little while anyway. But yeah, I did see God in a lot of things that I was doing. So, but I thank God that I did get to go, because I was excited, but I know God's the reason I got to go. So I thank God.
That picture that came up, that guy in the red shirt, they led him to the Lord that day right before that. I wanted to share that while that was up.
That was good. Yeah, that was.
Okay, I have something kind of silly first. On behalf of the girls' dorm, we would like to present Kim with the certificate for Best Room Mom for keeping our room in order and the people in it on time. So here you go. She was our alarm. And when we didn't go to sleep, she made us go to sleep. And she watched out for us, so appreciate it. So kind of like several others, I have several physical limitations. I deal with IBS, I deal with pain, I deal with asthma, all these things. And I learned this week that I've been putting the limitations on myself. And I did more than I thought I could ever do. Did not have to use any medications, no inhaler, nothing all week. I have had an injury in my arm since June from youth camp and had no problems with that arm this week. And I just, when I felt like I was going to die, literally, going up a hill, I rested and I pushed through it. And I just learned that with those limitations I put on myself, that God is bigger than that. And I need to stop putting myself in a box, because God does not put himself in a box. And so I can do more, and I'm going to try and do more.
Hola. See, you thought with the hat I was Puerto Rican, didn't you? I thought so too. I was going down the street and everybody's, hola, hola, gracias, gracias. And I was like, hola. You know, everybody thought I was Puerto Rican there. I blended in really well. Even when I bought the hat, I was like, does this make me look Puerto Rican? He goes, no, but the sweat does. So I felt like I preached a lot in Puerto Rico, because I was sweating pretty hardcore. No, it was fantastic. I think the best way to describe this trip was, if you guys ever listen to Dave Ramsey, beans and rice, rice and beans. We had it for every meal, and I am not complaining, because I am buying a rice cooker off of Amazon, and they gave me the recipes. I'm going to continue to eat that stuff, because it was fantastic. I loved every bit of the food. I'm not picky. But it was Thanks. No, it was a fantastic trip. When we went to Jamaica last year, one thing that it really affected me, and Harold can attest to this because we talked a lot about it throughout the year, was due to my size, due to my weight, due to my just health. It was really hard to do the physical work. I mean, we were carrying 2-3 gallon or size gallon buckets full of sand and concrete. Then they were going from 75 yards away all the way up to a pulley system up to the top. And I think I probably got maybe 10 buckets in, and my heart rate went up, and I couldn't get it under 200. My watch was flashing. Yeah, that was last year, and it was just flashing red. And so I made a determination that if I was going to end up, God was going to get me to another missions trip, that I had to do something a little different. And although that I was able to, I did a lot of the stuff for the VBS last year for Jamaica for all the groups, and we were able to do that, which was my wheelhouse. That physical exertion, that being able to do the physical work hurt, or not being able to do it. So I set out on a journey this last year to try to at least lose some weight. Try to get myself back up. And I've reached, I weighed right before we left, and I had reached almost 70 pounds of weight loss in the last year, yeah. And praise God for that. So this year, although I had to take a couple breaks here and there because it was rough, I was able to do probably about 90% of the work that we were doing, all the physical work. I stayed in the sun as much as possible. I mean, you saw the roof that was up there with all the clothes and stuff, and I was able to stay up on the roof for as long as I could. I mean, Pastor and I were taking blocks, and it was just the two of us just stacking blocks as they were bringing them up. But that's because of God. I don't feel like I did a lot that I should have in trying to lose that weight, but God, He made sure that He knew that I was going to be here regardless of the way that I got there. He knew that I was going to be there, and He helped me through that. That's the big thing. But there was one day where I decided. Well, let me jump back real quick. I want to talk about these hills real quick. These hills went like this. Okay, big guy go halfway up the hill. He's probably going to roll back down the hill. But everybody, and this touched me, and I talked to the young adults about this. Everybody was looking out for me, making sure I was okay. So there was a car that was going up, and so, what's that? And then it wasn't going to go back up. Oh, yeah, then it wasn't going up. I thought I was going to have to get out and push it. And I was like, this is why I got in the car. Why am I doing this? But there was a car that was going up, and they're like, hey, you need to get in this car. And I was like, no, I'll make it, I don't need any special treatment. And they're like, no. And as we're driving past, I was feeling so bad. I was seeing Harold, and I was seeing my own wife who wasn't in the car. And I told Josh Clancy, who is like a brother, I was talking to Josh Clancy, who is the overseer of the trip. And I said, man, I want us to stop. I want Harold and I want Rebecca and I want all of them to be able to get into this car. And he's like, dude, you don't understand. I don't think you're going to be able to make that up alive. And I said, well, I know I can't. So what I'm going to do is get out of the car, lay at the bottom of this hill, and say, God, it's been a good run. It's been a good run. I can sizzle now. It was bad. But then I decided, I'm going to be brave. I'm going to try to exert myself just a little bit more physically. I think I can make it the half mile, 3/4 mile back to the bus. Man, was that a mistake. It was downhill, but I got to the bus, and you saw our bus driver, Adrian, and I got down, and I'm huffing and puffing. I was the last one to the bus, and I stood in front of him, and I said, look, Adrian, if you don't want to hurt your bus from running me over, you're going to have to pick me up and carry me up those stairs on that bus. And he didn't like that too much. But when we got back to the room, I didn't say a